everyone, it's Jenny. Welcome to another process video. So this time around I'm using my October hip kit, and I am using the die cut pack there. A lot of this collection was the new Maggie Holmes collection called Open Book, and so I'm using the die cuts from that collection and also a piece of paper called Little Notes from the same collection. And the little paper there to the left that says "My heart is full," that was actually a piece from the 12 by 12 cut apart sheet, and it was called Full Heart. So as you can see there, I am just planning out my layout, so I'm just grabbing some little bits and pieces from that little dish I've got to the left, which is full of the die cuts, and I'm just going through there seeing what might work for me. So I've got the die cuts in that little dish, and also I cut apart the 12 by 12 sheet. So the 12 by 12 sheet, normally when you cut them apart on one side, you've got a mirrored cut on the other side, so you can use either, but this one, the cuts were different, so you had to pick and choose which ones you really wanted and cut them first. So I'm looking at that, and I want to do a technique with the distress paint that Auntie recreates. She's on YouTube, and she did this technique. So I had done this technique with distress stains before, but had never been able to do it with paint because it was more fluid. Not fluid enough, I should say. So what the technique is you just make sure that your paint is actually primed, so some of it's coming out, and you get a little bit of a paintbrush just with water on it and run that over the top a few times, and then give it a pretty hard whack on the paper, and you get a nice paint splatter. So just adding the water to the top of the dauber helps the paint become more fluid. So I'm also mixing up some paints. I just had some different coloured, an orange and a yellow from Semco, just an acrylic paint, cheap one from Spotlight, and I've watered it down with water so that I can make some paint splatters and drips on my page that shouldn't take too long to dry. So I'm just heating that up with a heat gun, and I've got it on my page. It's all pretty dry, just testing it with a tissue, and it's ready to go. So I'm just going to be layering those things back onto the page the way I had them, or near enough to the way I had them anyway, and I can change them up a little bit, but stick them down to where I think I want them, and then I can start sticking. But as you will see as I go along, once everything is stuck, I've actually covered up one of the paint splatters, and so I have to go in there and have another little go. But I loved this collection from Maggie Holmes. Maggie Holmes is one of my favourite scrapbookers. I love her collections, and they're always so pretty, and I loved the gold thickers in this one. So the Happy is part of her gold thicker set, and it has lots of words on it, so can use that for lots of different layouts. So I loved the font, the script font, and just looked great. The glitter didn't come off everywhere in the pack, or it didn't come off on anything, so it was stuck really well, and just makes a layout look great, I think, because it just adds a fun, happy title to the layout. So I'm just piecing everything together now. So I've got everything, so I just stick it together like a bit of a jigsaw, and I've got all of the elements the way I want them, so it's just a matter of pulling all the little pieces up and adding some sticky tape to them, so that photo area just becomes one big piece of paper that I can move around the page as I want it to move, so that I'm free to move it anywhere I want if I change my mind. So not sticking it to the page at this point in time. So just if you can see that little dish to the left, it was actually a gift from my daughter, and it's a little owl in teal, a little ceramic owl dish, and I love it because it fits lots in it, and I'm able to just put my bits and pieces that I'm working with on these layouts in that, and when I'm finished I just pack it into my stash if there's anything left, and I can start using it again, and that way everything is contained into the one spot. So just building up those layers, because you know I love layers, and so I love to tuck little pieces under and use different shapes, and so there was a few hexagons in there and some ovals, and just some squares with rounded edges and some not rounded edges, so it gave a really good variation, and lots of different colours of pinks. So this one I've stuck with the pinks and the orangey sort of colour, and added some pops of green as well. So I've decided that yep, that's where I want it to go. So I want to stick the white cardstock page down. So I'm just gutting out and really taking a lot of the middle of that page out, because I want to use every little bit of that paper, because I only have one sheet, and so I want to get as many layouts as I can from this kit. And so by cutting out the center, I'm saving that piece for another time. So I've just stuck the sticky tape around that, and then I can stick that on top. And that piece of paper is a piece of watercolor paper that I got from a pad from Target, which was about $6, and I was able just to cut it. It was about 11.5 inches wide, and so I was able to just use 11.5 inch square, so it worked really well. And it was nice to use cardstock that wasn't textured. This is a flat cardstock, so that was really nice. So I just marked where I want it to go, but I got my markings wrong anyway, as you'll see, and one of the spots doesn't really show. So sticking that piece together, that mat together, I think I actually pulled it up much higher, because I could see as I'm doing this part, the narration, the photo actually touched the spot on the bottom, but I've actually stuck it much higher. But I remedy that, and you couldn't tell that I've made a mistake. So there are no mistakes in scrapbooking. We just see something that we don't like perhaps, and we just adapt to it or make changes. So just tucking some paper underneath the photo there, and creating a little mat so that the happy wasn't just on the white cardstock. You could actually see some colour print behind it. So once again, that was just a little piece from that die cut pack, and I stick all that down, and then realise that I can't see the spot in the top right. It might actually be after I've stuck all this down. I stick the flower down and the happy, and then realise that I can't see it. So I was just giving it the final check over, and that's when I noticed. So just working out the position, and I toyed with putting the happy over to the left hand side and moving the me over to the right a little bit, but it just looked wrong. So I liked the happy coming to the right, and then putting a little bit of the weight back up to the left hand side with the me. So it's not a photo of me, it's a photo of my daughter, and it was a photo that was taken, and I changed the look of it on some website, and I don't even know what it was, but it actually made it look like the photo is made up of little dots. So it was just a fun photo to use, and thought this was a nice layout to use it on. So that was one that I'd had for years as well. I think she's about 14 there, so now she's 18. So that's one I hadn't used before. So that's where I noticed that I hadn't done the spot, so I'm just, excuse me. So I'm just making another one, and it doesn't quite go the way I want it to go. It goes a little bit wider, and it won't kind of split out like the other ones, but I think it's the best that I'm going to get without wrecking the page completely. So I just leave it as is and then dry the page. So just hit the heat gun, dry it up, and then try to fix what I've done. So it looks like a bit of a blob at the moment. So all I've done is put a little die cut over top. So one of the little pieces from the pack again, and that was the piece of the gold oval that I had cut off. So I put that on there and then team it up with one of these little half pinked circles, and I add a couple more of those to the layout just to make that a pattern that repeats over the page, so not just once, and then you wouldn't even be able to tell that that had happened. So just sticking that on now, and there you go. So now it doesn't look so much like a big blob, and it looks a little bit better. So not as perfectly lovely as the other ones, but you know, I'm happy with that, and that will pass. So just adding a little bit more sticky tape under there because I had pulled it up. So just making sure that everything is stuck together and not going to fall apart. So just looking to add one more of those little circles, seeing where I'd like it and what colour. And I think I decide that that's it, the one there. So it was actually a little bit of a map print. So that brought in the green and the pink to the layout. So I really liked this layout. Like I said, I love the Maggie Holmes collection, and this was a fun, happy layout. And you know, I was really happy with the end result. So some I make and you know, I think they're alright, and some I make that I just love, and this was one of the ones that I really, really loved and went relatively quickly too. So I'm just pulling out my ink now, and I decide that I need to cover most of that, the elements on the page, because I don't want to get them black ink on them. So I've just pulled out a photo developing pocket. So just adding my spots there and finishing up. So I will show you a close-up, and then I will leave you with some photos, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you're enjoying working with your Maggie Holmes collection if you've got it. It's a beautiful collection, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the pages that you're making. So thank you for joining me today, and thank you for all of your encouragement as usual, and for your likes and for comments, and just for being a wonderful supportive network. So I will leave you now, and I'll see you next time. Bye!